Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out the Saturnite Alloy Research Facility, which prior to the Great War, this facility quite obviously achieved the creation of the Saturnite Alloy, which is some kind of unknown metal that can retain heat to the point where a blade forged from it can be used to melt metal. Pretty freaking insane. And while much of the creation process is unknown and a mystery, this facility includes an exposed magma chamber, kind of gives us some idea about some of the process that is used to make Saturnite. Now, Saturnite was used by Big MT researchers to create cosmic knives, which were supplied to the Sierra Madre at the request of Frederick Sinclair, as well as the advanced D-25A Power Fist, also known as the Saturnite Power Fist, experimental armor plating, and artillery shells, which we can see around this facility, and we can actually fire those artillery shells at the X-7A left field artillery launch. And this facility is just north of the artillery launch, which we just mentioned, and just southwest of the sink. Now, I approached the Saturnite Research Facility from the west. And if you do this, you will see this symbol left over from Ulysses. The red indicates hostiles, and sure enough, as I went up this ridge, I was ambushed by a group of lobotomites, and I almost died. I came very close to dying. But as we come up over this ridge, we can find the research facility. And as you approach, you will see that it's kind of an interesting research facility because it has this part protruding out of it and into the mountain. More about that later, though. As we go up, we can see one of those markings left by Ulysses, this time a blue marking, which usually indicates a safe area. However, inside it is not so safe because we have these crazed Mr. Handies. Now, if you've ever visited New Vegas Steel in the base game, which is kind of located in the central part of the New Vegas map, then this kind of area is very familiar to you because you have all of this like smelting and crazed Mr. Handies. However, a big difference here, if you jump on the superheated metal, nothing actually happens to you. Whereas at New Vegas Steel, if you jump on the heated metal, you will actually take damage and eventually it can kill you. But inside of this room, we just kind of have a small workshop. And after you've killed the Mr. Handies, you can start looting around. We can find this construction hat next to the lockers. Construction hats are actually kind of rare items within Fallout New Vegas. And then on this cabinet next to the door, we can find the light switch module for mood lighting. Pretty cool. And here you can actually see the actual Saturnite like metal, these metal bars that are kind of littered around the facility. And as you go up the staircase, we can find that part that was protruding from the outside, and it leads us into the mountain. And from here, we can kind of discover a sort of mine, which is obviously how they were making the Saturnite alloy. And we can find some mentats and other random loot located within these foot lockers and these metal boxes. However, it is just kind of random chance what you find, because some of these metal boxes have absolutely nothing, and some of them have ammunition and caps. So you can take a look, see what you find, see if you get lucky. It is kind of annoying process, though, coming over from Fallout 4. Definitely something that was improved in later Fallouts was the ability to loot quickly. Now, as we disable the barrier here with an upgraded sonic emitter, we will find a unique Mr. Handy, Sparks. And he can be a bit difficult, but he wasn't too bad for me. Just took him out, and then you can loot his body for just like flamer fuel and ammunition. In fact, all of these crazed Mr. Handies actually are a good source of ammunition, and especially flamer fuel. Even in the base game at New Vegas Steel, these guys provide you with some decent ammunition. So after killing this other crazed Mr. Handy, we'll loot his body and take what he has. As we go further into the mine, we will eventually find this kind of magma pit that is open up, and we can see that they were lowering these large buckets into the magma in order to take it out. There's some kind of system, a pulley system, above our head, where obviously they could control these big buckets and probably bring them back into the factory. As you enter this kind of center facility, we can find a Saturnite fist on the ledge there. Also forgot to mention that Sparks has a Saturnite fist on his body, so we can get 2 Saturnite fists within this facility. Now, if you try and go up to the magma at the central part of this room, you will die a very anticlimactic death as you die right before you touch the magma. Not really right before, you die a good way away from the magma, kind of for no reason maybe, and our body just kind of sits on top. There's another construction hat there next to that skeleton, and then if our toe touches the death barrier, well, we die, and we fall down with our new skeleton friend. Now, one thing I was curious about was getting into these tunnels where these like magma pots are located, where they kind of come into the room, and I tried climbing up this rock here, but it really did not want to let me up. I tried reload dashing to get in and stuff, and well, I just didn't have any luck. But that was not enough to deter me. I kept trying and doing other reload dashes around the room, and finally I found one that worked. On this top railing, if you reload dash just as you're about to fall off and you look to your left, you can fling yourself into the hallway and get up here without any kind of console commands. I am on console, so I don't have that luxury. And then we can come to the end here and we just kind of find this black wall that we can phase through. And then there's a pit of nothingness. If you jump into the pit of nothingness, then you just spawn back in the main room. So I figured I'd go ahead and show this reload dash one more time in case you want to replicate it if you're on console. Obviously, if you're on PC, I don't know what you're doing. You can just use console commands. Now, the hallway opposite of me, I had a lot of trouble getting into, and I could never get a successful reload dash into it from the railing here. However, I was able to reload dash from this tunnel into the other tunnel. However, there was nothing to stop me, so I just flew through that tunnel, and then it kicked me back to the center of the room again. I just slowed that down to 20% just to kind of show that other tunnel. Now, as we head back out of the facility, I just wanted to show that on this little pod over here, there is a toolbox on top of it, and we can actually loot the toolbox for some random chems and medical supplies, so make sure you take a look and see what you get. If we head on outside, we can find a truck that has some footlockers with random loot inside, and over here there is a skeleton and another construction hat, so we can find a total of 3 construction hats here at this facility. Again, construction hats are a rare item within Fallout New Vegas, but they don't really have any benefit besides the fact that there are not many of them in the base game. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that despite its name being Saturnite, it doesn't appear to have any connection to the planet Saturn. Perhaps it just sounds cool. Perhaps Saturn is just a beautiful planet, so they named it after that. Who knows, but as far as we know, it doesn't have any connection. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for future locations, future ideas, please post them in the comments section below. So far, this has actually been one of my favorite locations to explore within the Big MT, just because it adds a lot of interesting lore to the world, to Big MT itself, and also this facility was very interesting and kind of unique as far as buildings in Fallout New Vegas go. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and as always, until next time.